Hey everyone, and welcome to the Executive Assistant Handbook. In today's video, I'm going to go into something that takes up a good chunk of our day, the boss's calendar. So tell me, what's the difference between calendar planning versus calendar management, or is there even a difference? And stick around because I'm going to show you 8 step-by-step methods I take to calendar plan. Before we get into it, I would love to spend more time together, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so we stay connected and you catch all of my videos as soon as they come out. If you're an assistant and you want to learn some tips on how to elevate your game, then this channel is for you. Now let's get into it. So what's the difference between calendar planning versus calendar management? The way I see it, calendar planning is a long-term strategy that you're implementing for your executive's calendar. You're looking at about 6 to 12 months ahead and strategizing the calendar. Now, calendar management is more short-term. It's the day-to-day, week-to-week organization. You're creating new meetings as they come in, you're editing them, you're removing them, and you're adapting on the fly as new things come your way. Now, in today's video, I'm going to show you those 8 steps that I use. They're strategies that I use when calendar planning. I think they're fantastic. They give you a great plan to set your executive up for success. Now, my next video, I will link it later on below. It's about calendar management and how to properly manage the calendar to set yourself up and your boss up for success. Okay, so number 1, when I plan the calendar, I plan it on a yearly basis. Less than that, and the year goes by way too fast, and you're scrambling. And it also gets very risky because things change, people move around the company or they leave, and then you're stuck updating meetings that are too far out, and now you're just back to wasting time. And what do we know? As executive assistants, we work smarter, not harder. So let's start from a fresh year and a clean calendar, okay? Number 2, I add all the holidays for that year. So you can do this manually, or there's a function in Outlook that allows the system to add all the holidays for you. Now, personally, I take the manual approach to this one, and I add them myself. Reason for this is it gives me line of sight as to when the holidays fall and seeing them as they come up. This is great because let's say, I don't know, that Christmas lands on this day and you're randomly talking to somebody and they kind of mention a date, and in the back of your mind, you'll be like, hold on a sec, I thought something was happening on that date. And you'll already question it and you'll be more motivated to quickly check the calendar to make sure that that's an actual date that either works or it doesn't work. Now, a tidbit, something that is really great and your boss will really appreciate is, let's say your boss is religious, and what I suggest that you do is learn about the holidays that are important to him and add specific things into the calendar that pertain to those holidays so that way he can observe them accordingly. Now, this is also helpful for you. So I'll give you an example. Perhaps, let's say he needs to fast from morning till evening for a certain number of weeks. Put this in the calendar because number 1, it's a reminder for him, but it's also a reminder for you because now you know that for those next 3-4 weeks, whatever it is, don't book any lunch meetings or dinner meetings or whatever, right? So you're winning. Okay, step number 3. The next thing I do is, if I've been working with the same executive from the previous year, I do a calendar meeting analysis. That's right, a calendar meeting analysis. Basically, I look at all the meetings from the previous year, and in a spreadsheet, I put down the meetings, the duration, the series duration, and what the meeting is, obviously. And then I tally it up and I give my boss a total number of hours. Now, this is a huge eye-opener for your boss. You're basically giving your boss a snapshot of where their time goes throughout the year and the weeks. So let's say, for example, 30% of my boss's time was spent in one-on-ones with his direct reports. 45% was spent in weekly executive team meetings, 10% was at events, and then the last 15 was at ad hoc meetings. Now, this is valuable information for your boss because it helps him now decide how he'd like to see the new year planned. He may be like, well, hold on a sec. Why am I spending 45% of my time in meetings with all the other VPs? What are we talking about? That's way too much time. Maybe there's a better way of doing it. So he might bring it up to the team and reduce it to half of that. Do they really need to meet that often? So when I send this list to my boss, basically, he'll come back to me with guidance and he'll say, okay, scratch out this meeting, reduce this meeting. I want these new meetings, and then you can take these out. And so now I have a great basis to work from to set him up for success for the next year. Okay, moving on. Number 4. So while I do this calendar analysis and now it's sitting with my boss, I can still work on the calendar in the background. So what I can do next is I take a look at the previous year and I look for any patterns. So what I mean is, were there any conferences or travel that my boss did that he may do again this year? So let's say he did a conference this past year, and if I do a quick Google search, I can see that the same conference is happening again next year, and these are the dates. So guess what? You're gonna block off those dates in the next year, and you're gonna just put them as tentative out of office. So that way, you know not to book any meetings in the calendar for that time. Now, if he goes to the conference, great. I have less work to do because I don't have to move any more meetings. If he chooses not to go to the conference, then hey, great too, because now I have free time back in his calendar to either protect him, and he can use that as work time, or I can open it up for people to book meetings on. Okay, number 5. Next, I go in and I block out my boss's patterns into the calendar. So for example, I always want him to take a lunch break. So I put a recurring block from 12 to 1, entitle it lunch break. That way it's always in the calendar for the entire year. Now, if anything changes last minute, then obviously you can adjust on the fly. But for the most part, that time is precious and it's blocked and you don't have to think about it anymore. Another one is my boss, for example, doesn't want to have any meetings before 9 a.m. So I block out 8 to 9 a.m. as a firm block, again, recurring. And so that way no meetings get put into the calendar at that time. Next, my boss likes think time throughout the week. So I go ahead and I put little recurring blocks of think time. And then also on Fridays from 3:30 to 5, an end of week work period for him to close out the week with any last minute items on his to-do list. Again, things in the calendar may change, so you need to be flexible. But the purpose of these time blocks in the calendar is to get you organized. And for the meetings that you will be booking, they're meant to fall around what your boss's preferences are. Okay, number 6. Next, I put in the big rocks. Now, one of my previous bosses always told me, don't be surprised by Christmas. What this means is that you know something is coming at the same time every year, and yet people still wait to the last minute and don't plan for it, and then they're scrambling. So don't be surprised by Christmas. And it basically reminds me that there are things in the calendar that happen every year around the same time. Now, this could be something like budget meetings, town halls, offsite meetings, quarterly meetings with vendors, holiday parties, the list goes on. So start blocking time aside for those big things, again, known as your big rocks, ahead of time. It doesn't have to be set in stone and sent out to participants just yet. Again, if you can, even better. But at this point, we're just trying to reserve time in the calendar that we know we need to allot for certain things. Okay, moving on. We're almost done. Number 7. After you put your big rocks in, this one's easy. Now it's the small rocks that go in. These are usually the one-on-ones that your boss has. Again, if you do the hard part of proper planning up front, it's going to save you some time and stress when playing the long game of calendar management. Okay, last one, last point. Now, I'm going to offer this up and it's going to be a bit controversial, okay? But I'm going to say it anyway. My question to you is, do you block all of your boss's free time so no one can see it in his calendar? Or do you keep it open and flexible so that employees can go in and book time with your boss on their own? Now, you need to do what's right for you. But personally, I'm a time blocker and I'm the gatekeeper to my boss's calendar. So all the time in my boss's calendar is blocked up. That means when someone goes into his calendar to see and book something, they will see a blue busy block the entire time. Now, the reason I do it is because I'm his executive assistant and my job is to protect my boss's time. And I've had it from experience where meetings get into the calendar that shouldn't have gone in. And then it takes away from my boss's time. And he walks on and he goes, why, what was that for? I didn't need to do that. That could have been an email. Okay. I had no control over that because someone had just dropped it in. Another thing that might happen is if someone just drops it in and then my boss notices and says, no, I don't want that meeting. Then you almost have that awkward communication. You say, you have to come up with like a politically, good way of responding back to the person saying, sorry, unfortunately, my boss is actually booked or something's going on and he can't meet with you. So you're just getting rid of that kind of awkwardness and you can just say, sorry, my boss is booked. Why don't you send him an email? Or if something opens up, I can potentially book you in. So keep the calendar control to you. It makes life easier for you and you have line of sight as to what is happening. Okay. So those are my methods of how I see or how I calendar plan. I find that this works for me. And if you found that the way I calendar plan helpful, and perhaps there are tips that I went over that you'll be able to apply to your job, please give me a like and follow if you found this useful. And if you have any advice on how you calendar plan, please drop it below. I always love to learn how EAs do things, so don't be shy, leave me a message. In my next video, I'm going to give you a behind the scenes of how I manage the calendar. And if any of you are interested to hang out daily, follow me on Instagram at Executive Assistant Handbook. Till next time, my wonderful EAs, have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.